The glass slipped from my fingers. Not dramatically. Not with a crash that would draw attention. Just a subtle loss of grip, my hand trembling so violently that the condensation-slick surface became impossible to hold. I caught it before it hit the bar top, my palm stinging from the sudden clutch, my knuckles white against the clear glass. My sleeve had ridden up. Just 3 inches, maybe 4. But enough. The bruise was impossible to miss. A deep purple that had turned greenish-yellow at the edges, spreading from my wrist halfway up my forearm like spilled ink on silk. The kind of mark that told a story I'd spent 6 days trying to hide beneath long sleeves in the suffocating Seoul summer heat. I yanked the fabric down so fast I nearly knocked over the bottle of soju I'd been pouring, my heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to escape my chest. The motion was too quick, too desperate, the universal language of someone with something to hide. And he saw it. Han Jae-won sat at the end of the bar in his usual spot, the corner seat that gave him a clear view of both entrances and the back hallway. His black suit jacket was draped over the stool beside him, his white shirt sleeves rolled up to his elbows in a way that somehow looked more dangerous than casual. The watch on his wrist caught the amber lighting, platinum, understated, worth more than I'd make in 5 years of serving drinks in this place. He'd been here 3 times this week. Always alone. Always ordering the same thing. Hwayo 41, the expensive soju that Mr. Kim kept on the highest shelf. The bottle I had to stretch on my toes to reach. He never drank much. 2 glasses, maybe 3, nursing each one slowly while he watched the room with those dark, unreadable eyes that seemed to catalog everything and reveal nothing. People in Gangnam whispered about Han Jae-won the way children whispered about monsters under the bed, with fear and fascination in equal measure. I'd heard the stories. The man who controlled half the underground in Seoul. The one whose name made grown men go quiet mid-sentence. The one you didn't look at too long, didn't question, didn't approach unless he approached you first. I'd served him drinks for 3 weeks now, and he'd never said more than 2 words to me. Until tonight. Come here. His voice was quiet, barely audible over the noise of the bar, the clatter of glasses, the competing conversations in Korean and English, the American soldiers from the base nearby getting loud at their table by the window. But somehow, his words cut through all of it, reaching me with perfect clarity. I froze, the bottle still in my hand, my other arm pressed against my side to keep the sleeve from slipping again. I'm sorry. My voice came out steadier than I felt, my Midwest American accent thicker when I was nervous. Did you need another? Come. Here. He said it again, slower this time, his eyes never leaving mine. Not a request. Not exactly a command either. Something in between that made my feet move before my brain could catch up. I walked the 3 steps to where he sat, my practical black flat silent on the sticky floor. Up close, I could smell his cologne. Something dark and expensive that didn't belong in a place like this, where most customers reeked of cheap beer and cigarette smoke. He gestured to the empty stool beside him with 2 fingers, a minimal movement that somehow carried more authority than most people's shouted orders. I really should get back to sit. I sat. The vinyl stool was still warm from whoever had occupied it before. My hands found my lap automatically, fingers twisting together, the left sleeve of my shirt clutched tightly in my right fist to keep it from riding up again. I could feel my pulse in my throat, in my wrists, in the tips of my fingers. Han Jae-won picked up his glass of soju, took a slow sip, then set it down with deliberate precision. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Around us, the bar continued its chaotic symphony. Laughter, clinking glasses, the thud of bass from the speakers overhead playing American pop music that felt out of place in this corner of Seoul. How long have you worked here? His English was perfect, barely touched by an accent, each word enunciated with the precision of someone who'd learned the language not from textbooks, but from boardrooms and backroom deals. 3 months. The truth came out automatically. I didn't dare lie to him, though I wasn't sure why. Something about the way he looked at me made dishonesty feel impossible. I needed the money. The owner doesn't ask questions about visas. A ghost of something, amusement, recognition, flickered across his face. You're American. From Ohio. I don't know why I added that detail. It seemed irrelevant in this moment. In this city that was 6,000 miles and a lifetime away from the cornfields and small-town simplicity I'd grown up with. I came here to teach English, but the school closed. I couldn't afford a flight home yet, so I gestured vaguely at the bar around us. He nodded slowly, as if this information confirmed something he'd already suspected. His eyes dropped to where my hands twisted in my lap, to the death grip I had on my sleeve. Show me. The words hit me like ice water. What? Your arm. His gaze lifted back to mine, and there was something in it now. Not quite concern, not quite anger, but something darker and more dangerous. Show me what you're hiding. It's nothing. I bumped into a door, the bathroom door at my apartment. It swings really fast and I wasn't paying attention. Don't. He cut me off, his voice still quiet but with an edge now that made my excuses die in my throat. Don't insult both of us with that story. I've seen enough bruises to know the difference between an accident and a handprint. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, refusing to let the tears fall, refusing to be that girl who cried in front of strangers, especially this stranger who could probably make me disappear with a single phone call. It's not your concern. I tried to sound firm, tried to pull together some shred of dignity. I appreciate your interest, but this is personal. Who did it? Who did it? Each word fell like a hammer blow, final and absolute. He wasn't asking anymore. I don't know what made me answer. Maybe it was the exhaustion. 3 months of working double shifts, of sending money to my sister back home who was trying to finish college, of lying to my parents about how great Seoul was, how teaching was going wonderfully, how I definitely wasn't serving drinks to criminals and sleeping in a room the size of a closet. Maybe it was the weight of 6 days of carrying this secret, of covering the bruises, of lying to the other servers about why I wore long sleeves in 90-degree heat. Or maybe it was something in his eyes, that cold, focused intensity that somehow made me feel like, for the first time in months, someone actually saw me. My ex-boyfriend. The words came out hollow. He showed up at my apartment 4 nights ago. He was drunk. I'd been avoiding his calls since I left the States. He said... My voice cracked. I swallowed hard. He said if he couldn't have me, he'd make sure no one else would want me either. His name. You don't need to. His name, Naomi. The sound of my name in his voice stopped me cold. I'd never told him my name. My name tag said Nay because Mr. Kim thought it sounded more Korean, more friendly to the local customers. I'd never introduced myself to Han Jae-won, had barely spoken more than, "Here's your drink," and, "Will that be all?" in 3 weeks of serving him. But he knew my name anyway. Marcus. I heard myself say it, heard the defeat in my own voice. Marcus Chen. He's American too, Korean American. He followed me here. He works at the military base as a contractor, security systems or something. I thought I could get away from him, but Han Jae-won's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He lifted his hand, and instantly 2 men I hadn't noticed materialized from the shadows near the back of the bar. They wore the same dark suits, the same expression of controlled violence barely contained beneath professional calm. He said something to them in rapid Korean, too fast and too low for me to catch more than a few words. I heard what sounded like a name, an address, a time. The 2 men nodded once and disappeared through the back door that led to the alley where deliveries came in, and things people didn't want to see got handled. "What did you just—" I started to ask, but he held up a hand, silencing me. "Go home." He pulled out his wallet, black leather, simple, probably custom-made, and placed several bills on the bar top. Far more than his 2 glasses of soju cost. Far more than made sense. "Take the rest of the night off. Tell your boss you weren't feeling well. Go home, lock your door, and don't answer it for anyone except me. I don't understand. You will." He stood, retrieving his jacket with fluid grace, sliding it on with the practiced ease of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. "He won't touch you again." The way he said it, not as a promise, not as a reassurance, but as a simple statement of fact, sent a chill down my spine that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with the sudden, terrifying understanding of what was about to happen. "Wait." I stood too, my hand instinctively reaching out toward him before I could stop myself. "You can't— he's not worth—" Han Jae-won looked down at my hand on his forearm, then back up at my face. His expression hadn't changed, but something shifted in the air between us, something I couldn't name but could feel in every nerve ending. "No one touches what's mine." He said it quietly, almost gently, but with absolute certainty. "Remember that." Then he was gone, moving through the crowded bar like smoke, people unconsciously stepping aside to let him pass without seeming to realize they were doing it. The door opened and closed, and he disappeared into the neon-lit Gangnam night. I stood there for a full minute, my hand still extended where he'd been, my mind trying to process what had just happened. Around me, the bar continued its chaos, oblivious to the fact that something had just fundamentally shifted in my world. "Naomi," Mr. Kim's voice cut through my daze. "Table 7 needs their order. What are you doing just standing there?" I turned back to the bar, back to my job, back to the familiar rhythm of pouring drinks and carrying trays. But my hands were steadier now, my breathing calmer. The weight I'd been carrying for 6 days felt somehow lighter, even as a new weight settled in its place. The weight of understanding that Han Jae-won had just claimed me as his, in front of everyone, in the most dangerous way possible. And I wasn't sure if I'd just been saved or doomed. I didn't go home. I should have. Han Jae-won had told me to go home, and something in the way he'd said it made it clear that his instructions weren't suggestions. But the thought of sitting alone in my tiny apartment, waiting for something I couldn't name, made my skin crawl with anxiety that had nothing to do with Marcus, and everything to do with the man who'd just walked out of the bar. So I stayed. I poured drinks. I smiled at customers. I pretended everything was normal even though my mind kept replaying those 4 words. No one touches what's mine. What's mine? As if I belonged to him, as if 3 weeks of serving him expensive soju had somehow transferred ownership of my life into his hands. The thought should have terrified me. Should have sent me running to the nearest police station or the American embassy, or anywhere that promised safety behind official walls and bureaucratic protection. But I'd been in Seoul long enough to understand that men like Han Jae-won existed outside those walls, operated in spaces where badges and paperwork meant nothing. And if I was being honest with myself, brutally, terrifyingly honest, part of me didn't want to run. Part of me wanted to know what happened next. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Ji-yeon, one of the other servers, appeared beside me with a tray of empty glasses. She was 23, born and raised in Seoul, with the kind of effortless beauty that made tourists stare, and the sharp survival instincts that came from working in Gangnam's nightlife since she was 18. "That man who was talking to you, do you know who he is?" "Han Jae-won." I said his name carefully, testing how it felt on my tongue. "I've heard stories." Ji-yeon's eyes widened. She set down her tray and grabbed my elbow, pulling me toward the back hallway where the restrooms were, away from the main floor's chaos. Her grip was firm, urgent, the kind of touch that said this wasn't optional. You need to be very, very careful. She spoke in English, her accent thicker than Han Jae-won's but still clear. Men like him don't talk to girls like us unless they want something. And what they want. She paused, searching for the right words. They always get it, always, no matter what it costs. He was just asking questions. He was looking at you like you already belonged to him. Ji-yeon's voice dropped lower, and I could hear genuine fear beneath her warning. I've worked here for 5 years. I've seen Han Jae-won come and go. I've seen him talk to other girls. They always disappear after. Not dead, but gone. Moved into apartments they couldn't afford. Wearing clothes that cost more than our monthly salary. Trapped in golden cages with no keys. My stomach twisted. I don't want anything from him. I just served him drinks. It doesn't matter what you want. Ji-yeon's grip on my arm tightened. It matters what he wants. And he's decided he wants you. The question is whether you're smart enough to run before he puts the collar on. Before I could respond, the back door crashed open. The same 2 men who'd appeared at Han Jae-won's summons earlier stepped inside, their suits somehow still pristine despite whatever they'd been doing in the hours since they'd left. One of them, the taller one with a scar running from his temple to his jaw, looked directly at me. Naomi. Not a question, a statement. Come with us. Ji-yeon's hand dropped from my arm. She took a step back, her face going pale, her survival instinct screaming at her to distance herself from whatever was happening. I didn't blame her. I'm working. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Tell Mr. Han I'll be off in 3 hours if he needs to, now. The scarred man's English was heavily accented but clear. Boss is waiting. I said I'm working. I crossed my arms over my chest, a defensive posture I recognized even as I did it. If he wants to talk to me, he can come back during business hours like a normal customer. The 2 men exchanged glances. Something that might have been amusement flickered across the scarred one's face. The other one, shorter, stockier, with cold eyes that reminded me of a shark, pulled out his phone and made a call. He spoke in rapid Korean, too fast for me to follow. Then he held the phone out toward me. Boss wants to talk to you. And my hand trembled as I took the phone. I pressed it to my ear, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. Naomi. Han Jae-won's voice came through clear and calm, as if he were standing right beside me instead of wherever he actually was. I told you to go home. And I told you I have to work. I turned away from the 2 men, lowering my voice. I can't just leave. Mr. Kim will fire me, and I need this job. A pause. I could hear something in the background. Voices, the sound of water, maybe traffic. You don't need this job anymore. Excuse me? I've already spoken to Mr. Kim. You're done here. My men will take you home, and tomorrow we'll discuss your new arrangement. The words hit me like a slap. My new arrangement? You don't get to decide. Yes, I do. There was no anger in his voice, no irritation. Just that same absolute certainty he'd had earlier. The moment I saw those bruises, the moment I understood what had been done to you, you became my responsibility. And I take my responsibilities very seriously. I'm not your responsibility. I'm not your anything. We both know that's not true. His voice dropped lower, intimate, despite the phone between us. You felt it too. The moment our eyes met tonight. The recognition. You've been waiting for me, Naomi. You just didn't know it yet. You're insane. But my voice wavered, betraying me. Go with my men. I'll see you soon. He hung up before I could argue further. I stared at the phone in my hand for a long moment, then handed it back to the stocky man. He pocketed it without a word, waiting with the infinite patience of someone who knew I had no real choice here. What if I say no? I asked, though I already knew the answer. The scarred man smiled. It wasn't cruel exactly. more like sympathetic. Boss doesn't take no for an answer. Makes it easier for everyone if you just come quietly. Ji-yeon had disappeared. The back hallway was empty except for the three of us and the distant sounds of the bar beyond. I thought about running, through the back door, into the alley, hoping I could lose them in Gangnam's maze of side streets and late-night crowds. But I didn't. Because Han Jae-won was right. I had felt something tonight. Something that terrified me more than Marcus's violence, more than these men's implicit threats, more than the unknown future stretching ahead of me. I'd felt seen. Truly seen. For the first time in months, maybe years, someone had looked at me and understood everything I was trying so desperately to hide. And that person was the most dangerous man in Seoul. Fine. I untied my apron, folded it with deliberate care, and set it on the supply shelf beside the restroom door. Let's go. The car was exactly what I expected. Black, expensive, with windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside until the scarred man opened the back door. The interior smelled like leather and that same dark cologne Han Jae-won wore. I slid across the seat, my practical server's uniform feeling suddenly shabby against the luxury surrounding me. The stocky man got in the driver's seat. The scarred one sat beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of his body, far enough that he wasn't quite touching me. A reminder that I was being contained, not threatened. Yet. What's your name? I asked the scarred man, as the car pulled away from the curb, Gangnam's neon lights streaking across the windows. He looked surprised by the question. Minjun. And him? I nodded toward the driver. Tae-young. A pause. Boss said you'd ask. He said you were curious. Smart. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Minjun smiled again, that same sympathetic expression. With boss? Could go either way. Depends on how smart you are about staying curious. The drive took 20 minutes, winding through streets I didn't recognize, into a part of Seoul I'd never explored. The buildings grew taller, more modern, the kind of high-rises that housed the city's wealthiest residents behind doormen and keycard access. We pulled into an underground garage, the car's headlights cutting through darkness before motion sensor lights flickered on. The building's elevator required a fingerprint scanner. Tae-young pressed his thumb to it, and the doors slid open silently. We rode up in silence. 35 floors, the numbers counting up on a digital display that was the only light in the mirrored elevator car. The doors opened directly into an apartment. Not a hallway with multiple units, not a lobby, directly into a space so enormous it took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over Seoul's nighttime sprawl, the city glittering like scattered diamonds against black velvet. The furniture was minimal but expensive. Low-slung leather couches, glass tables, artwork on the walls that looked like it belonged in museums. And standing by those massive windows, his back to us, hands in his pockets, was Han Jae-won. Leave us. He didn't turn around, but Minjun and Tae-young immediately retreated back into the elevator. The doors closed with a soft chime, and then we were alone. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stayed near the elevator, unwilling to venture deeper into this space, into his territory. Where's Marcus? Taken care of. What does that mean? It means he won't bother you again. Han Jae-won finally turned to face me. He'd removed his jacket, unbuttoned his collar. He looked somehow more dangerous in this casual state, like a predator temporarily at rest. It means he's on a military transport plane back to the United States as we speak, with a recommendation for immediate discharge and some very serious accusations pending investigation. I blinked. You didn't kill him? I don't kill people for simple assault. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I'm not a monster, Naomi. I'm a businessman, and killing creates complications that are bad for business, But destroying someone's life, making them wish they were dead, that's easy, clean, permanent. Why? The word burst out of me. Why do you care? You don't know me. You don't know anything about me except that I serve you drinks and my ex-boyfriend is an asshole. That's not enough reason to... I gestured around us, encompassing everything. The apartment, the car, the men, the casual destruction of Marcus's entire existence. To do all this. Han Jae-won walked toward me, slow and deliberate. I wanted to back up, but the elevator was right behind me. Nowhere to go. He stopped 3 feet away, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. 3 weeks ago, you served me my first drink here. His voice was quiet, intimate. You smiled, not the fake smile servers give to customers, but a real one. Brief, gone in a second, but real. And I thought, there's someone who hasn't been completely broken by this city yet. He reached out, and I froze as his fingers gently pushed up the sleeve I'd been clutching all night. The bruise was fully visible now, ugly and accusatory in the apartment's soft lighting. 2 weeks ago, I watched a drunk businessman grab your wrist. You didn't flinch. You handled it professionally, got him to let go, and never lost that smile. But I saw your hand shake when you walked away. I saw you rub your wrist in the back hallway. Saw the pain you were hiding. His thumb traced the edge of the bruise. Feather light. Somehow more intimate than any touch I'd ever experienced. 1 week ago, you dropped a tray. The glasses shattered everywhere. You apologized 17 times while cleaning it up. 17. I counted, and I thought, someone taught her that mistakes are unforgivable. He lifted his eyes from my arm to my face, and the intensity there stole my breath. Tonight, I saw proof of what I already suspected, that someone has been hurting you, teaching you to be small, to apologize, to hide. And I decided... His hand moved from my arm to cup my face, his palm warm against my cheek. I decided that stops now. You can't just decide that. But my voice was weak, unconvincing even to my own ears. You can't just claim someone like their property. I don't want property. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone. I want you to choose to stay. And if I choose to leave, then I'll let you go. He said it simply, and I almost believed him. Almost. But I'll make sure you're safe first. New job, new apartment, new identity if necessary. You'll never have to worry about Marcus or anyone like him again. Why would you do that? Because you remind me of someone. For the first time, I saw something vulnerable flicker across his face. My sister. She had your eyes. That same determined strength underneath the fear. She didn't survive the man who tried to break her. The weight of that confession hung between us. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate, but I meant them. Don't be sorry. Just let me protect you. His hand dropped from my face. Stay here tonight. Tomorrow, you decide. Stay with me, or I'll arrange your safe exit from Seoul. But tonight, just rest. Let yourself be safe for one night. I should have said no. Should have demanded he take me back to my apartment immediately. Should have called the embassy. Should have done any of the 100 smart things that would have kept me out of this man's orbit. Instead, I nodded. Okay. One night. His smile was small, but genuine. One night. He showed me to a guest room that was bigger than my entire apartment. The bed was enormous, covered in sheets that probably cost more than my monthly rent. There was an attached bathroom with marble counters and a shower that had multiple heads and settings I didn't understand. There are clothes in the closet that should fit. He paused in the doorway. If you need anything, press 0 on the phone by the bed. Someone will answer. Who? Your guards. My staff. This building has people who work for me around the clock. You're safe here, Naomi. I promise you that. After he left, I stood in the middle of that enormous room and tried to process everything that had happened in the past 4 hours. This morning, I'd been a server at a bar in Gangnam, hiding bruises and counting tips to send money home. Now I was standing in a penthouse apartment that belonged to a MAFIA boss, wearing his protection like a second skin, trying to decide if I'd just been saved or captured. I walked to the window. Seoul stretched out below me, millions of lights representing millions of lives. Somewhere out there was my old apartment, my old job, my old life. It felt impossibly far away, like something from another lifetime. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Sleep well. Tomorrow we talk about the future. JW. I stared at the message for a long time before setting the phone down and climbing into that enormous bed. The sheets were as soft as I'd imagined, the mattress perfectly firm. I should have been terrified, should have been planning my escape. Instead, for the first time in months, I felt safe. And that terrified me more than anything else had. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the disorienting realization that I wasn't in my cramped apartment in Itaewon. The bed beneath me was too soft, the room too quiet, the air too clean. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was or how I'd gotten here. Then it all came flooding back. Han Jae-won, the bar, the bruises. Marcus on a plane back to the United States with his life in ruins. The promise of protection that felt more like possession. I sat up slowly, my server's uniform from last night wrinkled and uncomfortable against my skin. The clock on the nightstand read 10:47 a.m., the latest I'd slept in months. My body ached with the kind of deep exhaustion that came from finally feeling safe enough to truly rest, the kind I hadn't experienced since before Marcus had shown up drunk at my door. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. "Come in." My voice was rough with sleep. The door opened to reveal a woman in her 50s, impeccably dressed in a simple black dress with her hair pulled back in a neat bun. She carried a tray with what looked like breakfast: coffee, fruit, pastries that smelled like they'd just come from a bakery. "Good morning, Miss Naomi." Her English was formal but clear. "Mr. Han asked me to bring you breakfast. He's in a meeting, but will be available in an hour if you'd like to speak with him." "Thank you." I took the tray automatically, setting it on the bed beside me. "I'm sorry, I don't know your name." "Mrs. Choi. I manage Mr. Han's household staff." She walked to the closet and opened it, revealing exactly what Han Jae-won had promised: clothes in various styles and sizes, all with the tag still attached. "I took the liberty of having some items delivered this morning based on Mr. Han's description of your size. Please choose whatever you'd like and leave the rest. I'll have them returned." I stared at the closet's contents. Designer labels I recognized from magazine advertisements. Casual clothes, professional outfits, even formal wear. Everything a woman might need for any situation. This is too much. The words felt inadequate. "I can't accept." Mr. Han was very clear about his instructions. Mrs. Choi's expression softened slightly. "He said you would protest. He said to tell you that accepting his generosity isn't accepting his control. It's simply accepting the reality that you're under his protection now, and people under his protection are provided for. It reflects on him if you're not properly equipped." The logic was twisted, but somehow made sense in this world I'd stumbled into. I nodded slowly, not trusting my voice. "The bathroom has everything you'll need. Take your time. Mr. Han's schedule is flexible today." Mrs. Choi moved toward the door, then paused. "He's a good man, Miss Naomi. I know what people say about him, what they think, but I've worked for him for 10 years, and I've seen how he treats those he cares about. You're safe here." After she left, I ate mechanically, barely tasting the food, even though it was probably the best breakfast I'd had in months. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything, trying to find the angle I was missing. Men like Han Jae-won didn't just help people out of kindness. There was always a price, always an expectation. I just couldn't figure out what his was yet. The shower was as luxurious as everything else. Hot water that didn't run out after 5 minutes, water pressure that actually worked, expensive soaps and shampoos that smelled like jasmine and sandalwood. I stood under the spray longer than necessary, letting the heat work out knots in my muscles I'd been carrying for months. When I finally emerged, I chose clothes from the closet almost at random. Dark jeans that fit perfectly, a soft cream sweater that felt like clouds against my skin, simple flats that were comfortable but elegant. I barely recognized myself in the bathroom mirror, without the exhaustion etched into my face, without the fear making my shoulders hunch. I looked like someone else entirely, someone who might actually belong in this world. The thought should have comforted me. Instead, it made my stomach twist with anxiety. I found Han Jae-won in what appeared to be his office, a room dominated by a massive desk, wall-to-wall bookshelves filled with volumes in Korean, English, and what looked like Chinese, and more of those floor-to-ceiling windows that made Seoul look like a toy city below us. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Korean I couldn't follow, but he gestured for me to enter and take a seat in one of the leather chairs facing his desk. I sat, my hands folded in my lap, and waited. The conversation lasted another 5 minutes. I watched him while he talked, the way his brow furrowed when whoever was on the other end said something he didn't like, the way his fingers tapped an unconscious rhythm on the desk's surface, the way he looked completely in control, even while negotiating something that sounded complicated and important. Finally, he hung up and gave me his full attention. "You slept well?" "Better than I have in months." The honesty surprised me, but lying seemed pointless. "Thank you. For the room, the clothes, all of it." "You don't need to thank me." He leaned back in his chair, studying me with that same intense focus from last night. "How's your arm?" I glanced down at the bruise, still visible below my pushed-up sleeve. "Healing. It looks worse than it feels." Liar. But there was no accusation in the word, just recognition. "You don't have to pretend with me, Naomi. I've seen enough violence to know what real pain looks like." "What do you want from me?" The question burst out before I could stop it. "Last night you said I could choose, stay or go, but this..." I gestured around us. "This feels like you're already assuming I'll stay. So what's the real offer? What's the catch I'm not seeing?" Han Jae-won was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, walked to the windows, and stared out at the city below. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, more vulnerable than I'd heard it before. 5 years ago, I had a younger sister, Jimin. She was 21, studying art at university, completely removed from my world. I kept her that way deliberately, protected, shielded. I thought if I could just keep her separate from the business, she'd be safe. He paused, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. She met someone, a university student or so we thought. Charming, Western educated. He pursued her aggressively, and she fell for him. By the time I learned the truth, that he was connected to a rival organization, that the relationship was a setup to get leverage over me, it was too late. My chest tightened. I already knew how this story ended. They killed her to send me a message, made it look like suicide. And his voice cracked almost imperceptibly. I destroyed everyone involved, burned their organization to the ground. But it didn't bring her back. It didn't change the fact that I'd failed to protect her when it mattered most. He turned to face me, and the raw pain in his eyes made me want to look away. I didn't. So when I saw you, saw those bruises, saw you trying so hard to be invisible, to be safe, to just survive, I saw her. I saw another woman who'd been let down by everyone who should have protected her. And I decided I wouldn't let it happen again. Not if I could stop it. I'm not your sister. My voice was gentle but firm. You can't save her by saving me. I know that. He crossed back to his desk but didn't sit. Instead, he leaned against it, arms crossed, eyes never leaving mine. But I can make sure you never have to hide bruises again. I can make sure you never have to work 3 jobs to survive. I can make sure no one ever makes you feel small again. And in exchange? In exchange? He paused, and something that might have been a smile flickered across his face. You let me take care of you. You accept my protection. And when you're ready, when you trust me enough, you let me know you the way I want to know you. The implication in those words sent heat through my body. You want me. Yes. No hesitation, no shame. From the first night you smiled at me, I wanted you. But I'm not going to take. I'm not going to force. I'm going to wait until you want me too. And if that never happens, then you'll still be under my protection. You'll still be provided for. You'll still be safe. He straightened, his expression becoming more businesslike. But I don't think that's going to be a problem. Why not? Because you're already curious. His voice dropped lower, intimate despite the professional distance between us. You're wondering what it would be like, what I would be like, how different I am from the men who've hurt you before. He was right, and we both knew it. I could feel the curiosity burning through my veins, mixing with fear and anticipation in equal measure. I need time. The words came out shakier than I wanted. To think, to process all of this. Take all the time you need. He moved behind his desk, pulling out a drawer and extracting a small box. He set it on the desk between us. But while you're thinking, I want you to understand something. He opened the box. Inside was a phone. New, expensive, already powered on. This is yours. It has one contact programmed in, mine. If you need anything, if you're scared, if you just want to talk, you call me, day or night, no matter what. He pulled out another item, a sleek black credit card. This is also yours. No limit. Use it for whatever you need. Clothes, food, rent for a new apartment if you want to leave here. Whatever. I can't take your money. It's not my money. It's yours. The moment you accepted my protection, you became part of my life. And I take care of what's mine. He said it with absolute certainty. If it makes you feel better, consider it a salary. You're under my employment now. Doing what? Healing. Learning to feel safe again. Deciding whether you trust me enough to let me closer. His smile was small but genuine. That's a full-time job, Naomi. Let me pay you for it. The logic was insane. But somehow, in this moment, in this office overlooking Seoul, it made perfect sense. Okay. I took the phone and the card, holding them like they might burn me. 1 month. I'll give you 1 month to prove that this isn't just some elaborate trap, that you're not just another Marcus with more money and better taste. Deal. He extended his hand across the desk. I took it. His palm was warm, his grip firm, but not overwhelming. The touch sent electricity up my arm, and I knew from the way his eyes darkened that he felt it too. Can I ask you something? I didn't let go of his hand yet. Anything. Have you done this before? Taken in women who needed protection? No. His thumb brushed across my knuckles, a gesture so subtle I might have imagined it. You're the first, the only one who's ever made me want to try. Why me? Because you're not broken. He finally released my hand, and I felt the loss of warmth immediately. You're bent, you're tired, you're scared, but you're not broken. and I want to see what you become when you're finally safe enough to straighten back out." The words lodged in my chest, mixing with emotions I didn't have names for. "I'll try." It was the most honest thing I'd said all morning. "I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if I can be what you want. But I'll try. That's all I'm asking." He moved toward the door. "Mrs. Choi will show you around the building. There's a gym, a pool, a private theater. Everything you need is here. But if you want to go out, Min-jun will accompany you, for your safety." "You mean as my guard?" "I mean as your protection." He paused in the doorway. "There's a difference, Naomi. You'll learn it." After he left, I sat in that leather chair for a long time, the phone and credit card heavy in my hands, trying to understand what I'd just agreed to. I'd traded one cage for another. But this cage was gilded, comfortable, and occupied by a man who looked at me like I mattered. And God help me, I wanted to see where this went. 3 days passed in a strange, dreamlike haze. I woke each morning in that enormous bed, ate breakfast delivered by Mrs. Choi, and spent my days exploring the building that Han Jae-won apparently owned outright. The gym was state-of-the-art. The pool was on the rooftop with views that made Seoul look like a painting, and the private theater had seats more comfortable than any I'd experienced in actual cinemas. But no matter how luxurious my surroundings, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was waiting for something, some shoe to drop, some price to be revealed, some moment when Han Jae-won would show me who he really was beneath the careful courtesy. That moment came on the 4th day. I was in the pool, swimming lazy laps in the late afternoon sun, when Min-jun appeared at the edge. His expression was tense, professional, the same look I'd seen on soldiers' faces outside the military base near my old apartment. "Miss Naomi, you need to come inside now." Something in his tone made me obey immediately. I climbed out, wrapping a towel around myself, my wet hair dripping onto the expensive tile. "What's wrong?" "Situation developing. Boss wants you secured inside until it's resolved." My stomach dropped. "What kind of situation?" "The kind where people ask questions about you." Min-jun's hand hovered near his waistband, and I realized with a cold shock that he was armed. "Come. Now." He led me back through the building's private floors, past the gym and theater, to an area I'd never seen before, a hallway that required a different code, with reinforced doors and security cameras every few feet. We entered what looked like a command center. Multiple screens showing various camera angles. 3 men I didn't recognize working at computers, and Han Jae-won standing in the center of it all, his phone pressed to his ear, his expression carved from ice. He saw me and ended his call immediately. "Get her to the secure room." He addressed Min-jun without looking away from me. "No one goes in or out until I give the all clear." "What's happening?" I demanded, my voice sharper than I intended. "Who's asking questions about me?" "Americans." He crossed to me in 3 strides, his hands gripping my shoulders firmly. "Military police from the base. Marcus filed a report before he left, claimed I kidnapped you, that you're being held against your will. They're trying to use it as leverage to investigate my operations." The world tilted. "Oh my God. I never thought he'd—" "It's not your fault." Han Jae-won's voice was still cold, but his hands on my shoulders were gentle. "This is Marcus trying to hurt me through you, but it won't work. I just need you somewhere secure while I handle it. Let me talk to them." The solution seemed obvious. "I'll tell them I'm here voluntarily, that you helped me get away from Marcus." "No." The word was absolute. "The moment you interact with American military police, you become a liability I can't protect. They'll use you to dig deeper into my business, and eventually you'll see or hear something that puts you in real danger. I won't allow that." "You won't allow?" Anger flared hot in my chest. "I'm not your prisoner, remember. You said I could choose." and you chose to trust me." He leaned closer, his eyes burning with intensity. "So trust me now. Let me handle this. Give me 24 hours to make this problem disappear." "How are you going to make military police disappear?" His smile was sharp and dangerous. "By giving them what they want. Proof that you're safe. Proof that I'm not the monster they think I am, and a reason to look elsewhere for their evidence." Before I could argue further, an alarm sounded. Loud, shrill, echoing through the command center. One of the men at the computer swore in Korean. "They're here." Han Jae-won's expression hardened further. "Downstairs, trying to get past building security. Naomi, you need to go. Now." Now." He pulled me close suddenly, his arms wrapping around me, his lips against my ear. "Trust me. Please. Let me protect you." The desperation in his voice decided me. I nodded against his chest, breathing in his cologne one more time before Minjun pulled me away, down the reinforced hallway to a door I hadn't noticed before. The secure room was actually a full apartment, smaller than Han Jae-won's penthouse but still luxurious, with no windows and air that tasted recycled. A safe room, I realized. The kind of place you went when the world outside became too dangerous. "How long?" I asked Minjun as he checked the room's supplies. Bottled water, non-perishable food, medical kit, even entertainment systems to pass the time. "As long as it takes." He moved toward the door. "I'll be right outside. You need anything, you knock 3 times. Minjun." I caught his arm before he could leave. "Is he going to be okay? Han Jae-won." Something soft flickered across the guard's usually stoic face. "Boss has survived worse than military police asking questions. He'll be fine, and he'll do whatever it takes to make sure you are too." Then I was alone. I spent the first hour pacing, my mind racing through scenarios. Han Jae-won arrested, me being deported, Marcus somehow winning this twisted game. I imagined military police breaking down doors, finding evidence of whatever illegal activities funded this lifestyle, dragging both of us into cells where expensive lawyers and powerful connections couldn't reach. The second hour, I tried to distract myself. I turned on the television, flipped through channels I couldn't understand, finally settling on an American news station that made Seoul feel impossibly far away, even though I was sitting in its heart. The third hour, exhaustion won. I collapsed on the safe room's couch and fell into a fitful sleep, filled with dreams of Marcus's fists and Han Jae-won's eyes, and the feeling of drowning in luxury that was really just another kind of cage. I woke to knocking, 3 deliberate raps against the reinforced door. "Naomi." Han Jae-won's voice came through clearly despite the thick metal between us. "It's over. You can come out." I opened the door to find him standing there, looking exhausted but unharmed. His shirt was wrinkled, his tie loosened, his hair slightly mussed, the most disheveled I'd ever seen him. Behind him, the command center was empty, the screens dark. "What happened?" "I gave them what they wanted." He stepped into the safe room, and I backed up to give him space. "Footage of you arriving here voluntarily. Testimony from Mrs. Choi about your employment as my personal assistant. Financial records showing salary payments. And a very generous donation to the military base's recreation fund." "You bribed them." "I incentivized them to look elsewhere for evidence of my supposed crimes." His smile was tired. "It's not the same thing, legally speaking." "And Marcus's report?" "Withdrawn." Apparently, his commanding officer had some questions about unauthorized use of military resources to track a civilian ex-girlfriend. "Marcus is looking at disciplinary action at minimum, possible discharge for abuse of authority." Han Jae-won's eyes hardened. "He won't bother you again. Ever." The relief should have overwhelmed me. Instead, I felt something else. Anger, maybe, or frustration, at how easily he'd resolved a crisis that had paralyzed me with fear. "You didn't need me to hide," I heard the accusation in my own voice. "You had this handled the whole time. So why lock me away?" "Because I needed to know you'd listen when I said trust me." He closed the distance between us, his hands finding my waist. "Because the next time there's danger, and there will be a next time, Naomi, this life I lead guarantees it. I need to know you'll let me protect you instead of trying to fix it yourself. I'm not some damsel who needs rescuing. No, you're a woman who's been surviving on her own for so long you've forgotten what it's like to have someone in your corner." His forehead touched mine, and I could feel the exhaustion radiating from him. "Let me be in your corner. Let me fight your battles. Let me—" He paused, searching for words. "Let me be what you need. And what do I give you in return?" "Nothing yet." His lips brushed my temple, feather-light. "But someday, when you're ready, I want everything. Your trust, your truth, your heart. I want you to look at me and see safety instead of danger. You are dangerous." But my hands had found his shirt, gripping the expensive fabric. "That's the problem. You're the most dangerous thing in my life right now. Then let me be your dangerous." He pulled back just enough to look into my eyes. "Let me be the knife that protects instead of hurts, the gun that defends instead of threatens, the monster that keeps other monsters away. That's not how monsters work. It is when they fall for someone." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "And I'm falling, Naomi. Have been since that first smile you gave me. I just need you to catch me." I should have pushed him away. Should have remembered all the reasons this was wrong, all the ways this could destroy me. But I was so tired of being alone, so exhausted from fighting, so desperate for someone to see me as more than just another broken girl who needed saving. So instead of pushing away, I pulled him closer. Our first kiss was gentle, a question more than a demand. His lips were soft, tasting like coffee and something darker I couldn't name. I made a sound in the back of my throat, something between a gasp and a surrender, and felt him smile against my mouth. "Naomi." My name was a prayer, a plea, a promise. "Don't." I kissed him harder, my fingers tangling in his hair. "Don't talk. Don't think. Just—" He understood. His arms wrapped around me, lifting me slightly as he backed me against the safe room's wall. The kiss deepened, became something urgent and needful. 4 days of tension finally snapping like a cord pulled too tight. His hands stayed respectful, one cradling my face, one at my waist. But I could feel the restraint in every touch, the way he was holding himself back. It made me want him more, this proof that he could be gentle even when he clearly wanted to consume me. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, I kept my eyes closed. If I looked at him, I'd have to face what I'd just done, what I'd just started. "Hey." His voice was soft. "Look at me." I opened my eyes. His expression was open, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. "This doesn't change the deal," he said quietly. "You still have your month. You still get to choose. This was just—" He paused, searching for the right words. "This was just me showing you what choosing to stay could look like. And if I still choose to leave after this, then I'll let you go with the memory of the best kiss of your life." His smile was gentle, teasing. "But I don't think you will." He was probably right, but I wasn't ready to admit that yet. "Take me back upstairs." I straightened my clothes, trying to reclaim some dignity. I need space to think." "Of course." He stepped back immediately, giving me room to breathe. "Whatever you need." As we walked back through the command center, past the dark screens and empty stations, I realized something that should have terrified me but instead felt inevitable. I wasn't falling for Han Jae-won. I'd already fallen. The only question left was whether I'd survive the landing. The following week passed in a strange new rhythm. I was still living in Han Jae-won's building, still technically had my own space in the guest suite. But increasingly I found myself in his presence, sharing meals, watching movies in the private theater, talking late into the night about everything and nothing. He was different than I'd expected. Yes, he was dangerous. Phone calls conducted in rapid Korean that ended with people's lives irrevocably changed. Meetings with men whose eyes held the kind of cold calculation that came from doing terrible things and sleeping soundly afterward. But with me, he was gentle, patient, almost careful, as if I were something precious he was afraid of breaking. We didn't kiss again. Not after that first time in the safe room. But the tension between us grew with each passing day, an electric current that hummed beneath every conversation, every accidental touch, every moment our eyes met across a room. I was beginning to understand what falling in love with a monster felt like, and it terrified me more than anything Marcus had ever done. "You're thinking too loud." Han Jae-won's voice cut through my thoughts. We were in his living room, him working on his laptop, me pretending to read a book in English that Mrs. Choi had found for me. The sun was setting over Seoul, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose that seemed too beautiful for a city this brutal. "Sorry," I set the book down. "Just processing." "Want to talk about it?" I considered lying, then remembered that he'd asked me to trust him. "I'm trying to figure out who you really are. The man who destroys people's lives with a phone call, or the man who makes sure I have fresh flowers in my room every morning." He closed his laptop, giving me his full attention. "Both. I'm both, Naomi. The world I operate in doesn't allow for goodness without strength behind it. Being kind isn't enough. You have to be capable of violence too, or your kindness gets you killed." "But you enjoy it." It wasn't a question. The power, the control. Sometimes. His honesty surprised me. Sometimes it feels good to be the most dangerous person in the room, to know that people fear you enough to behave. But other times, he paused. Other times I wonder what I could have been if I'd been born into a different life, if I'd had choices beyond survival and supremacy. What would you have been? A teacher, maybe. Or a lawyer, the legitimate kind. His smile was self-deprecating, someone who used words instead of threats. Someone who could sleep without nightmares about the things I've done. The vulnerability in his admission made my chest ache. "You have nightmares?" "Every night." He stood, crossing to where I sat, lowering himself onto the couch beside me. Close but not touching. "Except the nights you've been here. Those nights I sleep through." "That doesn't make sense." "It does if you understand that you're the first good thing I've had in 5 years. The first person who looks at me and sees human instead of monster." His hand found mine, threading our fingers together. "You quiet the screaming in my head, Naomi. You make me remember why I started doing this in the first place. To protect people who couldn't protect themselves. I can protect myself. I know, but you shouldn't have to." He lifted our joined hands, pressing his lips to my knuckles. "That's what I want to give you. A life where you never have to protect yourself again because I'm doing it for you." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression immediately hardened into something cold and lethal. "I have to go." He released my hand, standing abruptly. "There's a situation that requires my immediate attention." "What kind of situation?" "The kind I don't want you anywhere near." He was already moving toward his office, pulling out his jacket, checking something I couldn't see. "Stay here. Don't leave the building. Minjun will be outside your door." J1. I used his first name deliberately, seeing how it made him pause. "Be careful." Something soft flickered across his face. "Always am." Then he was gone, and I was alone with my thoughts, and the growing fear that loving him meant accepting that he might not come back one day. He returned 4 hours later, his white shirt stained with something that might have been blood, his face expressionless in that way that meant something terrible had just happened. I was still awake, unable to sleep, pacing the living room like a caged animal. "You're hurt." I crossed to him immediately, my hands reaching for his shirt before I could stop myself. "Let me. It's not my blood." He caught my hands gently. "I'm fine. Just tired." "What happened?" "Nothing you need to worry about." He started toward his bedroom, and I followed, despite the clear dismissal in his tone. "I'm worrying anyway, so you might as well tell me." He stopped at his bedroom door, turning to face me. In the dim hallway lighting, he looked exhausted. Not just physically, but spiritually, as if something in him had been worn down to the bone. A rival organization made a move against one of my businesses. They hurt people, employees who couldn't defend themselves, people whose only crime was working for me. I had to respond. How? Decisively. That was all he'd give me. "It's handled now. They won't try again." I wanted to ask what decisively meant, wanted to know exactly what he'd done in those 4 hours, but I was afraid of the answer. Afraid of having to reconcile the man who brought me flowers with the man who'd just come home covered in someone else's blood. "You should shower." My voice was steadier than I felt. "Get cleaned up. I'll be in my room if you need anything." "Naomi?" He caught my hand before I could leave. "Don't pull away from me now. Please. I can handle your fear, your anger, your disgust. But I can't handle you shutting me out. I'm not. You are." His grip tightened slightly. "I can see it in your eyes. You're remembering that I'm dangerous, that I do terrible things to protect what's mine. And you're scared that someday I might turn that violence on you. Will you?" The question burst out before I could stop it. "If I try to leave, if I betray you somehow, will you hurt me the way you hurt them?" "No." His answer was immediate, absolute. "Never. You could destroy everything I've built, Naomi. You could go to the police, the media, every enemy I have, and give them ammunition to use against me. And I still wouldn't touch you. I'd let you burn my world down rather than raise a hand to you. Why? Because I love you." He said it simply, like it was obvious. "I've loved you since the first night I saw those bruises and decided no one would ever hurt you again. Every day since has just made it worse, more desperate, more consuming." The confession hung between us like a living thing. "You barely know me." But my voice was weak, unconvincing. "I know you prefer coffee to tea, but only if it's strong enough to taste like courage. I know you twist your hair when you're nervous and bite your lower lip when you're thinking hard. I know you send money to your sister every week even when you're struggling yourself. I know you cry during sad movies but try to hide it. I know you're terrified of thunder but won't admit it. I know." He pulled me closer. "I know you're falling for me too, even though it scares you more than anything else in your life. You're right." The admission felt like jumping off a cliff. "I am falling for you, and it terrifies me because men I fall for end up hurting me. I'm not Marcus." His voice was fierce. "I'm not your father who abandoned you. I'm not any of the men who've let you down. I'm someone who's trying desperately not to nay this up because losing you would destroy me. Then help me understand." I looked up at him, seeing the exhaustion and desperation written across his features. "Help me understand how to love someone who does what you do, how to reconcile the gentleness with the violence. By understanding that the violence is for them, He gestured vaguely outward, toward the city beyond. And the gentleness is for you. You get the parts of me that no one else sees. The parts I keep hidden, because showing them to my enemies would get me killed. That's a lot of responsibility. I know, but you're strong enough to carry it. His forehead touched mine. You've been carrying the weight of survival for months. Let me help. Let me carry you for a while. I should have said no. Should have recognized this for what it was. A beautiful, dangerous trap that would consume me completely. But I was so tired of being strong alone, so exhausted from fighting battles no one else could see. So instead, I kissed him. This time wasn't gentle. It was desperate, needy. 4 days of tension and fear and longing finally breaking free. His arms wrapped around me, lifting me completely off the floor as he carried me into his bedroom, kicking the door closed behind us. We didn't talk about the blood on his shirt or the things he'd done tonight. We didn't discuss the future or what this meant or where we were going. We just existed in this moment, this space where two broken people found something like wholeness in each other. Later, wrapped in his sheets that smelled like his cologne, his arm heavy across my waist, I whispered, "I think I love you too." He pulled me closer, his lips against my hair. "I know. That's the problem." "What do you mean? Loving me makes you a target." His voice was thick with something that might have been regret. "Everyone who wants to hurt me will come for you first. And He paused. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to lose you the way I lost Jimin." "Then don't lose me." I turned in his arms to face him. "Teach me to survive in your world. Make me strong enough that I'm not just a weakness they can exploit." "You want to learn?" "I want to stop being afraid." The truth surprised even me. I want to be someone who can stand beside you instead of hiding behind you. His smile was slow and dangerous. That might be the sexiest thing anyone's ever said to me. "I'm serious. So am I." He kissed me softly. "Tomorrow. We'll start tomorrow. But tonight," his arms tightened around me. "Tonight, let's just pretend we're normal people who fell in love the normal way." So we did. We pretended we were just two people in Seoul, finding each other against impossible odds, building something beautiful from broken pieces. And for one night, it was almost enough to make me forget that I'd fallen in love with the most dangerous man in the city. Almost. The next 3 weeks were unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Han Jae-won kept his promise. He taught me his world, piece by dangerous piece. Min Jun gave me self-defense lessons in the building's gym, teaching me how to use someone's weight against them, where to strike to disable an attacker, how to turn everyday objects into weapons. "Boss says you need to be able to protect yourself for 5 minutes, he explained during our first session. 5 minutes is enough for us to get to you. Mrs. Choi taught me to read situations, how to spot surveillance, how to identify threats in a crowd, how to exit any room I entered with maximum efficiency. Mr. Han's enemies will study you, she said gently. You need to study them first. And Jaewon himself taught me the most important lesson, how to be invisible in plain sight, how to attend his business dinners and hear everything while appearing to notice nothing, how to smile and nod and charm while cataloging faces, names, weaknesses that might be useful later. I was becoming someone new, someone harder, someone who could stand beside a monster without flinching. The transformation should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like finally becoming who I was always meant to be. You're a natural. Jaewon pulled me close after a particularly successful dinner where I'd extracted information from a rival's wife without her realizing she'd been manipulated. You see patterns others miss. Make connections that take my analysts hours to find. Terrible spy. But I was smiling against his chest, breathing in his cologne. I was a terrible spy. The best spies are the ones no one suspects. His lips found my temple, and no one suspects the beautiful American girlfriend who smiles and asks innocent questions. Is that what I am? Your girlfriend? You're more than that. His arms tightened. You're my partner, my equal, the person I trust with everything. The word everything should have been romantic. Instead, it made my stomach clench with anxiety, because everything in Jaewon's world included blood and violence, and choices that kept me awake at night. 2 days later, everything changed. I was in the penthouse alone. Jaewon was at a meeting. Minjun was with him. Mrs. Choi was running errands. The doorbell rang, which was unusual. No one came to the penthouse without calling first. I checked the security camera feed on the tablet Jaewon had given me. A woman stood outside, early 30s, expensively dressed, beautiful in that polished way that came from money and professional maintenance. She looked directly at the camera and smiled. My blood ran cold. I recognized her from the files Jaewon kept in his office. Park Seo-yeon, daughter of one of Seoul's most powerful crime families. A rival, an enemy. And she was holding something. I zoomed the camera in and felt my heart stop. A photo. Of me. From before Seoul, before the bar, before everything. A photo from my college graduation, my family around me, everyone smiling. She knew where I came from, who I'd been, where my family was. I called Jaewon immediately. Naomi, what's wrong? There's a woman at the door. Park Seo-yeon. She has... My voice cracked. She has information about my family. A string of vicious Korean curses. Don't open the door. Don't talk to her. I'm 5 minutes away. She's not leaving. I watched the screen as Seo-yeon pressed the doorbell again, still smiling that cold smile. And she knows I'm here. If I don't answer, stay away from the door, Naomi. That's an order. But Seo-yeon was speaking now, her voice carrying through the intercom system. I know you're watching, Naomi Williams, or should I say Naomi Henderson. That's your real surname, isn't it? The one you used before you fled your ex-boyfriend and your family's debts. My blood turned to ice. She knew everything. I just want to talk. Seo-yeon's voice was pleasant, reasonable. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to offer you a way out. A way to save your family from the debts they've been drowning in since your father's business failed. My father. His construction company had gone bankrupt 2 years ago, buried under debts I'd known about but couldn't fix. That's why I'd come to Seoul in the first place, to send money home, to try to keep them afloat while they rebuilt. 30 seconds, Naomi. Then I leave, and I call your family's creditors. Tell them where to find additional assets to seize. My hand was on the door handle before I'd consciously decided to move. Naomi, no. Jaewon's voice was distant, frantic. Do not open that door. I opened it. Seo-yeon's smile widened. Smart girl. May I come in? Say what you need to say from there. Fine, I'll be brief. She held up the photo of my family. Your father owes $300,000 to some very impatient people. People who don't care that he's trying to rebuild. They want their money. Now. I don't have that kind of money. But Han Jaewon does. Her eyes glittered with malice. And he cares about you. Enough to pay, I think. If properly motivated. I'm not for sale. Everyone's for sale, darling. The price just varies. She pulled out her phone, showed me a video. My father, leaving what I recognized as their house in Ohio. My mother behind him. My sister, younger and worried, clutching textbooks. All of them alive. All of them in danger. Walk away from Han Jaewon, Seo-yeon said conversationally. Return to America. Disappear from his life. And I'll make your family's debts disappear too. plus a bonus, enough money to restart your father's business properly. And if I refuse? Then I send people to Ohio who specialize in collecting debts creatively. And Han Jae-won gets to watch another woman he loves destroyed, just like his sister. The elevator dinged. Jae-won emerged at a run, Min-jun and 3 other guards behind him. He saw me standing in the doorway with Seo-yeon and his expression turned murderous. Get away from her. He positioned himself between us, his body a wall of protective fury. Now. I was just leaving. Seo-yeon smiled pleasantly. I've said what I came to say. The offer expires in 24 hours, Miss Williams. Choose wisely. She walked to the elevator, pressed the button, and was gone before Jae-won could stop her. The moment the doors closed, he rounded on me. What did she say? I told him. Everything. About my family's debts, her offer, the threat. He listened in silence, his expression growing colder with each word. When I finished, he pulled out his phone and made a call in rapid Korean. I caught enough words to understand. He was calling in favors, mobilizing resources, preparing to go to war. Stop. I grabbed his arm. You can't. This isn't your problem to fix. Yes, it is. He lowered the phone. The moment she threatened you, she made it my problem. I'll have your family under protection within the hour. Their debts paid by morning. And by tomorrow night, Park Seo-yeon will regret ever speaking your name. And then what? My voice rose. Then her family retaliates? Then this war escalates until people die? Until you have to do things that give you nightmares? I can't. My voice broke. I can't be the reason more blood gets spilled. Then what do you want? He cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. You want me to let her threaten you? Let her destroy your family? Tell me what you want, Naomi, and I'll make it happen. I want... The words stuck in my throat. I want a life where loving you doesn't put everyone I care about in danger, where we're not constantly fighting battles we didn't choose, where we can just be normal people who fell in love. That life doesn't exist for people like me. His voice was gentle but final. This is who I am. This is what loving me means. Fighting, protecting, surviving. And I won't apologize for it. I'm not asking you to apologize. Tears streamed down my face. I'm asking you to let me go, before more people get hurt because of me. No. The word was absolute. I lost Jimin because I wasn't strong enough to protect her. I won't lose you too. I don't care what it costs. I don't care who I have to destroy. You're staying, and your family is staying safe. And anyone who threatens either is going to learn why people fear my name. That's not love. The words burst out. That's obsession. It's both. He pulled me against him, his arms like steel bands. I'm obsessed with you. Completely. Desperately. And I love you enough to burn this entire city down if it keeps you safe. So choose, Naomi. Right now. Stay with me and let me protect you properly. Or walk away, and I'll still protect you, but you'll never see me again. You said I had a month to decide. That was before someone threatened your family. His voice was raw. Now you need to choose. Because if you're staying, I need to know I can go to war without worrying you'll run. And if you're leaving... His grip tightened almost painfully. If you're leaving, I need you gone, before I do things that will make you look at me differently. The choice hung between us like a blade. Leave, return to America. Let Jae-won handle this from a distance. Be safe, be free, be alone, or stay. Accept that loving him meant accepting violence, meant blood and nightmares and constant danger, meant becoming someone I'd never imagined being. I pulled back enough to look into his eyes, saw the desperation there, the fear, the love that was equal parts devotion and destruction. I'm staying. The words came out steady, certain. Not because you're forcing me. Not because I'm trapped. But because I choose you. All of you. The gentleness and the violence. The protection and the danger. I choose this life because it's with you. The relief that flooded his face was devastating. He kissed me hard, desperately, like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When we finally broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. You're sure? I'm terrified. The honesty felt liberating. But I'm sure. So what do we do now? His smile was sharp and dangerous. Now we show Park Seo-yeon what happens when someone threatens what's mine. And tomorrow, he pulled back, his expression softening. Tomorrow, we start planning our future. The one where you're not just my partner, but my wife. If you'll have me. Are you proposing? Not yet, but I will. Properly. With a ring and words that do justice to how much you mean to me. He kissed my forehead. For now, let me handle this threat. Trust me to keep you and your family safe. I trust you. Then go to the safe room. Stay there until I come get you. This won't take long. I wanted to argue, to insist on staying by his side. But I'd made my choice. I'd chosen to trust him, to let him protect me his way. So I nodded and let Min-jun escort me back to that windowless room while the man I loved prepared for war. Hours later, 3, 4, I'd lost track. Jae-won returned. His clothes were different, his hands were clean, but his eyes held that distance that meant terrible things had happened. It's done. He sank onto the couch beside me. Seo-yeon won't trouble us again. Your family is under protection. Their debts are paid, and I've sent word through appropriate channels that you're off limits. Permanently. What did you do? Nothing that will keep me awake at night. He pulled me into his arms. Nothing that wasn't deserved, and nothing you need details about. I should have pressed, should have demanded to know exactly what done meant, but I was learning that loving Jae-won meant accepting that some questions were better left unasked. What happens now? I nestled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Steady, strong, alive. Now we build the life we want, on our terms, with our rules. His arms tightened. And anyone who tries to destroy it learns that I protect what's mine with everything I have. I'm not property. No. Your family, your home. You're the only good thing in my world. He tilted my face up to his. And I'll spend every day proving I'm worthy of the choice you made tonight. Just love me. I kissed him softly. That's all the proof I need. I can do that. His smile was genuine, warm, the smile he only showed me. I can definitely do that. Outside, Seoul continued its chaotic symphony. Millions of lives intersecting, millions of stories unfolding. But in that moment, in Jae-won's arms, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Safe. Chosen. Home. Loving a monster hadn't destroyed me. It had remade me into someone strong enough to stand beside him. Someone who could protect as fiercely as she was protected. And together, we would build something beautiful from the wreckage of our pasts. Something dangerous. Something real. Something worth every risk.